when answering questions and giving their opening and closing comments. This is an opportunity to promote his or herself and not attack or demean an opponent. Being respectful does make a difference. Before we begin, please turn off all cell phones or put them on silent or whatever so that that doesn't crop up in the middle of what we're doing. Any recording of tonight's event must be shown and or heard in its entirety. A statement at the beginning of the recording must state that the views and ideas expressed are those of the candidates and not the League of Women Voters nor the Lake Helen Villa. And our involvement is not an endorsement of any candidate. No portion of the forum may be used in a political advertisement. Again, I just want to say that the views expressed here tonight are those of the candidates, not the League and not the Lake Helen Villa. We really just want to give citizens of Lake Helen an opportunity to know your candidates just a little better so that when you vote, you will vote an informed vote and not an emotional or some other kind of a vote. I'll begin by explaining the format. There will be a 1 opening comment and a 1.5 minute closing comment. The order for responding to questions has been determined by drawing of straws, and so have the closing comments. We will ask questions developed earlier by the League, citizen questions that came in through email, and we also will have questions that are submitted from our audience tonight in writing. If you have a question you would like to ask, just raise your hand and Vivian will bring a card to you and a pencil, and then when you finish writing your question, raise your hand again. She'll come by and pick it up and bring it to the screening table. Now, the members who are here are 2 members of the League of Women Voters, Nancy Nussbaum and Nikki Junkins, and they go through the questions and screen them for duplication, relevance, and balance. And they do that so that we don't ask the same questions over and over again. Candidates will have up to 1 minute to answer each question, and I will alternate the order of who responds first. At the end of the minute, our timer, Carolyn West, will hold up a stop sign, which is in red, and we ask that you finish your thought and very quickly complete your answer. Kathy Egley and Vivian Lord, members of the League, are assisting with the distribution and collection of cards and pencils. Again, raise your hand if you want to ask a question or if you have a question completed and you want it brought to the table, and Vivian will pick it up for you. One final word to our candidates. Our timer will hold up a sign when you have 30 seconds left when answering each question, and a stop sign when your time is up. The same procedure will be used for both the opening and closing statements. And that's just to give you a guide. When that 30-second sign goes up, don't stop. A lot of people have a tendency to do that. Remember, you still have 30 seconds, which is a good bit of time. All right, are there any questions from the candidates? All right, if there are no questions, then we will begin. And Cameron Lane has the first opening statement. 1 minute to open.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's so glad to see you all here this evening. I want to thank Mrs. Smith. You've done a wonderful job last time and a great job so far this time. Thank you to the Lake Helen Villas for having us here and the League of Women Voters for getting it all together and promoting it. And thank you for caring enough about your community to be here. It's astounding that democracy works at all, but it certainly doesn't without you and the people up here on the dais too. Thank you to each of the candidates for being here and caring enough to put yourselves on the line and work towards this. I should promote myself a little bit. I am a businessman, long time, recently retired about 2 years ago. I was in a family business. My dad was a great businessman. I came in, because of his capabilities, I came in at a management level at a very young age and was in management my whole life and enjoyed it, learned a lot from it, learned a lot during it. And I want to take those skills and apply them to the city and go for steady incremental improvement.
The second opening statement will be given by Vernon Burton. Mr. Burton?
Thank you. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for having this facility and be able to provide this opportunity. Why am I here? I have been involved in the city commission in the city business for the last 15 years. I am probably the best suited, best qualified person for this job right now. I've sat next to at least 10 different commissioners. I've hired 3 of the last city administrators, and this will represent a tiebreak between Cameron and I, because there have been 5 female city commissioners and 5 males. So this way, we're going to have the 6th male, and we'll be the tiebreaker. I plan to be able to do the things that the city has been looking forward to doing, and I'll be here as your representative as well as an ambassador to the city, not only in Lake Helen, but in the surrounding cities.
The third opening statement will be given by Heather Rutledge. Ms. Rutledge?
Hi, I am Heather Rutledge, and I would like your vote for Commissioner of Zone 1 here in Lake Helen. Thank you so much for coming tonight and caring enough to learn more about me. I've been in Lake Helen for a little over a decade. I got married and expanded my family here. We have one little girl who also attends school here at Lake Christian Academy, and we have a rescue pup named Penny, and we just expanded with a rabbit, so that was a surprise. But I love Lake Helen so much. I've been a manager, I've done accounting. I just graduated in 2019 with my bachelor's in accounting. I think that's a unique skill set that I bring to the table. I also was on the Lake Helen League for Better Living, which has been around in the community for almost 50 years. I learned a lot through that experience, and it really opened my eyes to, more, and that's why I'm here today. I've heard some concerns in Lake Helen, and I hope that I can address them. Thank you.
The last opening statement is being made by Ms. Kelly Frasca.
Hi, thank you. My name is Kelly Frasca. I would like to thank the Lake Helen Villa and the League of Women Voters of Volusia County for hosting this event, and for all of our citizens for joining us tonight. And a special thank you, special happy birthday, 101 birthday, for the League of Women Voters. So, woohoo! I have been humbled to serve you these past 2 years, and I look forward to serving you again. Together we have accomplished great things, and even with all the challenges we have faced. However, I am proud of what I have been able to achieve during my tenure as your Zone 1 Commissioner. I feel that I have much more to offer you by safeguarding our taxpayers' dollars while maintaining transparency and accountability. Our citizens and our community are of the utmost importance to me, and it is my duty to make your concerns a top priority, regardless of the results of this election. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. All right, question number 1, and we will begin the answers and we will wait just a moment until we get everything squared away. All right, we will begin our first question. Mr. Burton will answer first, then we will have Ms. Rutledge, then Ms. Frasca, and then Mr. Lane. The first question is, please tell me why I should vote for you.
I come shovel ready. I have been city commissioner for 9 years. 3 of those years, 3 additional years I was city vice mayor. I've served on our planning board. I've served on our Parks and Rec. I've been a representative to the TPO, which is the Transportation Planning Organization. And I began looking into the city for 12 years before. My mother was a resident here, and the things that she did, the things that she brought to my attention have been the things that I want to be able to address. I am the best qualified person for this job. That's because I've been here the longest. I've been doing this job, and evidently, I think I have the ability to bring leadership to this community, to the city commission. The community can lead itself, but the commission needs to be able to have some unity, because what we do on that board is what represents and what is being brought into our community. And I want to make us to look.
All right, Ms. Rutledge. Excuse us, but technology. All right, are we ready? Are we ready? Yeah. All right. Ms. Rutledge, the question is, please tell me why I should vote for you.
Thank you. I have a strong passion for our local politics. I feel that it's where we see the most impact on our day-to-day lives. And because I care deeply about the community, it's why I got involved. I have a strong background in management, which I mentioned. Over 10 years of management, I've attended numerous courses on ethics and management. So I feel very comfortable in handling uncomfortable situations, dealing with the public, and just overall whatever needs to be done. I'm also a hard worker, and I'll get out on the ground and be out there working in the heat, whatever is needed for our city. But also I have my bachelor's in accounting, and I think it's something to be mindful of, is to look at our budget and see if there are any ideas, fresh eyes on the situation. Thank you.
Ms. Braska, same question, please.
Yes, thank you. As a longtime advocate for the community, I believe in protecting, preserving, and protecting the value of what we have here in our gym, which is our historic heritage. Also within harmony within nature, so you can count on me to continue that fight to ensure smart growth that protects our green spaces, our farmland, our natural beauty, environmentals, areas, and clean water. And every issue that we have, we have to look at it with open eyes. And I want to give you an example. For instance, our lake. Our lake had maintenance issues. It was lacking maintenance on it. I looked at our lake. I appreciate and I applaud all of our lake volunteers. But what I did was on the legislative side. I reached out and I looked for professionals, a lake consultant, to help us with coming up with a maintenance plan.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lane.
I'm going to start, and I have a timer of my own, so I promise to be good. As I mentioned, I'm a businessman, and one of the things we did in our businesses was purchase facilities that were going bankrupt. We purchased them out of bankruptcy and turned them around and made them quality businesses again. And right now, the city of Lake Helen is in a bit of a pinch. It's financially in quite good shape, actually. But there's been a great deal of staff turnover, and there's a great deal of dissension within the city. That's kind of a vague thing, but the reality is that it's there. I can't make everybody happy, but I can work within that environment and I think make a difference in it. I can't wave a magic wand, but I can promise you that I will work hard towards it. Now, Mr. Burton mentioned how long he has been working here at the city, and he has, and I respect his tenure here. But I don't believe that simply tenure is enough. I think my experience will lend towards a better outcome. Thank you.
Question number 2, Ms. Rutledge, you will begin and answer first. If elected, what would be your highest priority?
I think it's hard to limit it to one, but the number one thing I'd like to see in Lake Helen is preserving our history, and I think that includes some of our buildings that we have, the amenities that we have that we all enjoy, and so I think we can build off of that. There are many other things I'd like to see happen. Road management, clean water, but if we're strictly picking one, it would definitely be preserving our history and all the wonderful things that we have in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Frasca, I'm sorry.
Thank you. My top 3 priorities for our city going forward for this fiscal year is, in concert with what Ms. Rutledge said, protecting our historic heritage. That is one that other neighboring cities are in quite disrepair. They're losing their heritage. So here in Lake Helen, it is our job as legislative and citizens to maintain that historic charm that we call home. But with doing so, it requires also protecting basically our borders. So we can do that through annexation. And most importantly, we need to address and update our policies and procedures and ordinance so that way we can do all of the above. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lane, and then when Mr. Lane completes his, Mr. Burton.
On the campaign trail, such as it is here, I have heard the most questions about defending the city from developers and particularly the high-density residential development. And so I know that's a high priority, and I've talked a lot about that. But I think my highest priority would be, well, let me finish that by saying I think it is incumbent upon the City Commission to do its best to defend the character of the city against developers who are honorably trying to make a dollar, but they definitely could change the nature of the city very quickly. My highest priority, however, would be to work on the team building and getting some sense of unity back. Sounds vague again, but it's a very important thing. We have some serious dissension in the city, lots of accusations flying around that are damaging us at a deeper level than most people realize. So I'm going to work hard on that.
Mr. Burton?
Someone once said that a rumor is carried by a hater, believed by a fool, and repeated by an idiot. I think too many of the things that are talked about in the city are mostly rumors. I think the betterment of the city is based on us being able to come together. My priority would be just that, reaching out to the community and a better way of communicating. One of the things that we do not have is an adequate way of communicating to the city. We had a water problem where the pressure went out the other day, and we had to basically walk around and drive around looking for it. We don't have a system. We did have a system that we could make a phone call, and you would get a phone call to let you know we needed boiled water, but we didn't have it. So I think what we need to do, and that's just one indication of how our lack of communication is in the city, and it happens every day.
Thank you very much. Question number 3, and Ms. Frasca, you will answer first, then Mr. Lane, then Mr. Burton, and then Ms. Rutledge. So question number 3 is, is, within your skill set for this office, what would you consider to be your biggest weakness, and how will you compensate for it? Ms. Frasca.
That's a very good question. I think one of my biggest weaknesses that I haven't had enough time within our city government to know everything as a seasoned commissioner would have. I only spent my first 2 years, which is my first term, in city government. Prior to that, I was not on the legislative side. I was, as a community member and a citizen, I participated that way to grow. But if there was anything I consider to be a weakness, is not having enough time to present to you. Thank you.
Same question for Mr. Lane.
I certainly understand it takes time to get up to speed. I was commissioner for 6 years. The first 2, I was scrambling quite a bit myself. And the second 2, I felt much more comfortable, and by the 6th year, I was feeling pretty good about it. And really did feel like I had a much greater depth of understanding of what it takes to keep the city running and running smoothly. My personal weakness, my wife would probably agree with this, is probably my lack of organizational skills for myself, personally. I tend to bounce around from project to project to project. I love life that way. The good thing is that as mayor, I'm not going to be responsible for the day-to-day operations of the city. We've got a city administrator for that, and I'm going to lean on him heavily. But I'll take that as my greatest weakness.
Thank you, Mr. Burton.
My greatest weakness is that I've been a city commissioner for Zone 2 for 12 years. I know Zone 2. I haven't ventured out in terms of trying to get into what Zone 3, Zone 4, and Zone 1 is, because there were city commissioners over there. So I think my weakness would be able to become my strength, because now I know how I worked when I was in Lake Helen, in Zone 2. So what I would bring to the table would be able to reach out and to try to bring together 2, 3, 1, and 4. So being inside of Zone 2, I can tell you all the things I've done in Zone 2. I can't tell you what I've done in Zone 3. I can't tell you what I've done in Zone 1. I can tell you what I've done for the city that has made a difference in the city in whole. But as far as me being the one that's waving the flag about what I've done in Zone 3, no, I haven't. We got a commission in Zone 3. So my biggest weakness will be able to be compensated by being able to be in the position of the mayor and to be able to have a binding effect on our commission to be able to bring us together.
Thank you, Ms. Rutledge.
Thank you. As a first-time candidate, I think it's my experience is what is my weakness, and I would combat that by continuing to learn every day, listening to the people who do have the experience, and that goes outside of just the commission and the city administrator, but also to the folks that have been around town and know how things work. So I would continue to learn every day. I'm a student for life, is what I always say. I enjoy to read and to continually learn about new things. My current project is studying the zoning for Lake Helen and how that affects each of the lots that are still available and are already there. So I'm always learning, and that's how I would combat it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Question number 4 will be answered first by Mr. Lane, then by Mr. Burton, then Ms. Rutledge, and then Ms. Frasca. Question number 5 is, what do you see as the greatest challenge facing the city of Lake Helen today, and how do you feel we should approach it?
Well, I've mentioned a couple of times the dissension within the city. I think that really is our greatest challenge in many ways. We do have some good challenges coming up, though. We've got a bunch of money coming our way due to the COVID stimulus money that's been flowing out of Washington. We've got to find some good ways to spend that. They're working hard on it. This is not something I'm going to have to invent this wheel. But it's a good challenge. Organizing that, bringing it to fruition, working through the inevitable, or helping us get over the inevitable hurdles that come in that process, I think I will do well at. Keeping things moving forward is a part of business, and as I've mentioned, I've been doing that for a long time.
Mr. Burton?
Would you repeat the question?
What do you see as the greatest challenge facing the city of Lake Helen today, and how do you feel we should approach it?
I think the greatest challenge that we have right now is with the city having so many new employees. We may have a brand new police chief. We have a brand new city administrator. We have a brand new public works director. So just being able to use I'd say institutional knowledge that I have had from running the city, that I could use that to bring some clarity or bring some inspiration to some of the newer people that are coming to the city, and let them be able to use whatever information I can provide for them to be able to work our city, make our city work more efficiently, more effectively, and more transparent.
Thank you very much. Ms. Rutledge?
I think the biggest threat to Lake Helen is imminent growth. I think that growth is inevitable, but at the end of the day, it's about how we approach it. We do have some rules that are already in place and that we need to follow, but I believe in smart growth. That's a term that I've learned recently, and it just means that we're lessening environmental impacts and we're developing our town with techniques that don't have us really close together or very dense. So that's something that I'd like to see. I know that there's been talk of the lot sizes and maybe making them smaller, but I'd like to see them maybe even be larger instead. So I would definitely say it's the growth and how we manage our growth in the future and bring maybe some small businesses in. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Raska?
Yes, thank you. Growth is one of our biggest challenges, and when we look outside and we see our city and what we've grown up, those of us or those of you who have grown up here, you've seen a lot of changes. You've seen that our approaching cities are getting quite closer. So growth within itself is definitely an issue that we need to address. And we need to address that with annexation, and to also make sure that we stick with our 2035 comp plan, which lays it out so perfectly on what we are to expect. So, thank you.
Next question. Mr. Burton, you will answer first. There are concerns about the condition of our lake. What are we looking at in the future of our lake? And do you support herbicide spraying in our lakes?
For more than 15, 20 years, the lake has not been on our agenda. It has not been on the city budget. There's not been money set aside for it. So somewhere along the line, when the lake started disappearing, we all became aware of it. Now I think that because we are aware of it, we're doing other things. The word herbicide came in. We had a problem with what we call hydrilla, which is a plant that was taking over the lake. It was sucking the oxygen out. It was going to be able to create a problem where we could not survive if it did not get addressed. And the only way that you could have addressed it was by chemical, and it was being able to be done in a weather-sensitive position so that it'd be cold enough that it would kill it off. So there is a mixture. You cannot say that you don't want to have any pesticide. I am not in favor of it because I think the lake should be something that we can always look forward to. But we also have to use a common sense way of dealing with it and not have a knee-jerk, repugnant attitude.
Thank you. Ms. Rutledge?
Thank you. The lake is something that I care deeply about. I've been in the lake pulling the weeds and the hydrilla and the invasive plants up to my waist many times. And I'll continue to do so because that's how passionate I feel about the lake and its health. But I know that There are many tools in the toolbox. Some of them, one of them is herbicide. And I know that it is a very controversial topic, but it's similar to me to modern medicine. You're not going to go and take 6 or 7 Advil. You're going to take the recommended dosage, and it's going to do what is needed for your body. So as a last resort, after all of the other tools in the toolbox have been used, I would support using herbicide, but in a very small doses, and if nothing else has worked. Thank you.
Ms. Frasco?
Yes, thank you. Our lake has been quite of a sore subject lately, hasn't it? So with our lake, it is very obvious that there was a lack of maintenance for the past 15, 25 years. I don't have the exact number, but our lake was something that didn't just pop up out of nowhere. We've always known it's been there, and therefore having a maintenance plan for our lake would make sense to me. It would make sense to me. And the fact that we did not have a maintenance plan and it did not come to our commission was an issue. But in my 2 years, I reached out and I did some research and I located a lake consultant, and he came out and he gave us a master plan on how to work our lake. And it's not just herbicides, it also includes biological and manual pulling. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lane, I guess you need a microphone.
One of our businesses was over in Port Orange, and it was Countryside Lakes in the Countryside subdivision there, which had 600 homes, quite a few large businesses, of which ours was one. And when we went there, I went to one of the board meetings there, and everybody was screaming at one another. The first thing they ever said to me was, "Sit down, shut up, and stop butting in." And so the next meeting, because we had numerous votes, because we were a residential facility, I voted myself onto the board and served there for 27 years. I mentioned that because we had 18 lakes in that subdivision, and we managed them for those whole 27 years. I learned to lean on the experts and follow their advice and wisdom, but not check my brain at the door. I do believe that minimal is the best word we can come up with for herbicides, because their impact is long-reaching. However, they are required at some level.
Thank you. And the next question, and this will be answered by Ms. Rutledge first. What steps would you take to put our city on a more firm financial footing? And as you address that question, please address in your answer your thoughts about the 2022 and 2023 budget.
Could you repeat the beginning of the question?
What steps would you take to put our city on a more firm financial footing?
I think the best thing to do is to dive into each of the pieces of the budget and see where we may be spending our money frivolously. I have seen the budget, and I know that Lake Helen is doing okay financially right now. We do have the grants coming in from COVID, I think was mentioned earlier, and so that's going to be taking over some of the water and public works issues that may have required some of our budgeting for that. So I think that's actually going to set us up for a better situation in the coming years. And so maybe we can use our, the funding that would have been for that for some of the other things that have been neglected, such as City Hall restoration. Thank you.
Ms. Frasco?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, what steps would you take to put our city on a more firm financial footing? And within your answer, address the 2022-2023 budget.
2021 and 2022?
The person wrote 2022, 2023. I'm really just repeating what they wrote, so.
Well, I haven't seen the 2022, 2023 budget, but I can tell you about our 2021, 2022 budget. Recently, we have implemented, well, staff has implemented a stricter purchasing policy, which removes the ability to have frivolous spending. That right there will alleviate some of the cost in our different department heads. Also within that, I believe hiring experienced employees will help us have a more professional city, city. Be able to produce more of a higher quality for our citizens. So within that, I think I answered the question. No?
Thank you.
Okay.
No, I can't tell you that.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Lane, the same question.
Well, the city itself is on a firm financial footing. We have plenty of money in the bank. We've got good reserves. We're doing well from that viewpoint. Now, certainly, there are ways to trim the fat in everything. Everybody always talks about that, but it can be done to some extent. I mentioned I was in business for a long time. I was in the nursing home and then assisted living business. We operated it in the nursing homes on about a 1.5% profit margin. That's a tight following of a budget. Budgets are great. They're an outline of where you're going to go, but you've got to be constantly on your game, watching your spending, working to keep things under control, keep the fires put out without having to let them get so bad that you have to start throwing money at them. So I'll bring that experience to my work at the city and do my best to help the city. It's really just a help thing. The city kind of runs itself. As I've said, the city administrator is really in charge of the pennies.
Mr. Burton?
I think sometimes people think that as you're the mayor, we're a city that has a weak mayor position. The commission only runs as a commission when all 5 of us are sitting on the dais. It takes 3 people, 3 votes to get anything done. And to be able to do that, we can't talk among ourselves about it. We have to do it in a city commission meeting. So we have to reach out to people we have to put ourselves out there to have people give us the best input. What do you think? What's your idea? Anytime anybody was asking me about what can I do, what could be done, the first thing I tell them, well, if I agree with you, then you need to speak to 2 other commissioners, because that way you'll have a 3. And as a mayor, I won't have the ability to make a motion, nor will I have the ability to make a second. So as the mayor, I become the tiebreaker. So to be able to listen to both sides of the argument, if it's 2-2, I'm the one that's going to make this decision which way we're going to go. So that's how I'm going to be able to look at it. As far as the city.
Thank you, Mr. Burton, and thank you for paying attention to time. The next question, and our first responder will be Ms. Frasca. Where do you see Lake Helen in 5 years with all the houses that are now being built?
Thank you for that question. 5 years goes by pretty fast, and so do these houses. Right now, with the woods, it is almost completed, so the development in there will slow down. However, any open space that we do have, we need to keep an eye on what's coming in. We don't want to go and have smaller lots. Smaller lots means more houses. We want to protect what we have, and again, I think that we need to look at annexation and also protect our green land and our farms. So having that will be able to allow us to maintain the historic charm that we have now. Thank you.
Mr. Lane, your question.
Well, Mr. Burton and I were both on the commission back in the 2005, well, yes, but the 2005 build-up and then the 2008 crash, I think we're probably headed toward one of those again. Right now, houses are valued even more ridiculously than they were at that point in time, to some extent. So, as you mentioned, 5 years goes by quickly. We need to just kind of hold our own and defend our city as best we can. Stay within our comp plan, use that as our guideline, and hold on tight as best we can against the developers that, as I said, are just trying to make a living. Building out, we saw the woods get built and almost completed now, as you said, and that was part of the plan. And if you look at it, it's pretty comfortable. The woods are nice. Everything has been absorbed. That growth has not really changed our character. So we're doing it well.
Mr. Burton.
I will agree with Cameron on this point that the largest development that's been had in the city was a development that was planned 20 years ago. That was the Woods of Lake Helen. The Woods of Lake Helen fell under the bottoming out of the economy. And before I ran, I used to come to the city commission meetings. I was known as Chicken Little, because every time I would ask a question, I would ask a what-if question. And what I would always get as a response is, well, the things are cyclical and there's historical, where everything that happened after 2009 was not cyclical and it was not historic. So we have to be able to prepare ourselves for the imposition of the economy on us. We don't have as much to say about how the economy runs, but we can be mindful of it. And all the things that we were able to get through, the bottoming out of the economy and everything that happened, I was on the board when we did those things. But I helped make those decisions that be able to brought together the city to be able to be where we are now.
Thank you. Ms. Rutledge.
Could you repeat the question one more time? I want to make sure.
Yes, where do you see Lake Helen in 5 years with all the houses that are being built?
So where I see Lake Helen is continuing to grow. I think I mentioned growth is inevitable, but it's up to us as to what kind of homes are allowed, and that's already established. But I think enforcing that, I would like to see examining maybe the zoning on the larger homes, because I know that some of the homes are, we're expanding, our families are expanding, our homes are expanding. So maybe making larger lot sizes for the larger homes so they don't feel like they're so smushed together. With a humble home like I have, my lot is plenty, but when you're looking at a 5,000, 4,000, 3,000 square foot home, it sits differently on a smaller lot. So that's something I'd like to examine. Maybe some more affordable homes for some beginning families or for the elderly. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Lane, you will answer this question first. When making decisions as a commission, how would you weigh special interests and the interests of Lake Helen?
When I first got on the commission, those many years ago, I was kind of excited to see what it would feel like when somebody approached me with trying to win my favor as some sort of special interest or a developer that wanted to give me a bribe or something like that. Nothing like that ever happened. It was incredibly boring being on the commission in that respect. Special interests don't really push us very hard as individual commissioners, or maybe they will a little bit more as mayor, but I don't believe they do very much. So I'm not too worried about special interests. I guess the closest thing we have to that right now would be the developers. We've talked about that quite a bit. I don't hate developers. I think we have to work with them. We worked with them well in creating the Woods of Lake Helen, and we see how that worked for us. It did work well. We don't have to become adversarial. We just need to be assertive of the rights we do have.
Mr. Burton. Second.
The first city administrator we had was Don Findell, and the city commission gave him instructions, because we direct the administrator. We gave him instructions as to what we did not want in the city, what we did not want to have happen in the city. Builders that came into our city, they found it very difficult to deal with Lake Helen because we wanted what we wanted. And I think right now that, with the building, the things that have gone on, that so much building has come into a small area that maybe they think that they can push us over. But I don't think that we're not going to allow them to be able to determine what our city is going to look like. And our city administrator is who we're going to hold accountable. And holding the city administrator accountable, because he's the one that has the day-to-day opportunity to work with these people. When we sit on the board, we give to the city administrator directions, and we just make sure we follow up with it.
Ms. Rockledge?
How do I weigh a special interest? I kind of echo Mr. Lane on this. I don't know that it would come to that, but I guess if it did, I would follow my ethics. I don't see that playing a part. All I want to do is bring to light the issues that all of the citizens care about and follow through with those. There's no reason to go with a developer that doesn't have vested interests like the citizens that live here. And so I think it just comes down to listening and being impartial and implementing those changes or upholding the things that are working that the citizens want to see.
Ms. Frasco?
Yes, thank you. Special interest, well, all of our citizens are a special interest. So as I have had the past 2 years, citizens have come up to me with issues or concerns, and I have addressed those accordingly. As far as individual or anything unethical, I haven't been approached with that, and if I was to be approached with it, I would definitely make sure I walked away. Because that is not a place you want to be. You never want to be someone or that guy who falls into, I don't know how to say it the right way, but falls into being the buddies with the contractors. So, thank you.
All right, Mr. Burton, you will answer first. In recent years, and this has been brought up tonight in a couple of instances, there seems to be an elevated level of contention surrounding City Hall. Do you agree? If yes, how do you think we can best move forward in a more positive and uplifting manner? If no, how would you propose to negate the impression that there is contention at City Hall? Mr. Burton.
I've been on the commission long enough to know that things happen using someone's word that they used a long time ago. Things are cyclical. Things change. Things turn. We've had several different iterations of commissions, and we have different personalities. In terms of City Hall, our mayor, who's no longer going to be the mayor, our police chief is not going to be the police chief. So we have an opportunity. Right now, we have a clean slate. Rogers is the city commissioner in the zone where I was, and he's got a chance to now see some things that I didn't see. So I think that we have an opportunity right now to eliminate most of what would be rumored as to be contention. And we have a great city administrator who I think it's his place to be here at this time. He's looking at our city with fresh eyes, and he's bringing a whole different perspective. He's not connected to anybody, he's not beholden to anybody but the city commission. So I don't think that we're going to see that kind of infighting.
Ms. Rockledge?
Thank you. I think that there's always going to be some level of contention among people. We all have different personalities and we all want something different from our government. But at the end of the day, I think the best thing that we can do is just continue to communicate, just be as transparent as possible, continuing to put out information. I think a lot of the reason that there is somewhat of contention is because people are either misled from talk that happens on Facebook or through the community, but also just they're misinformed and they don't know enough about the topic. So I think continuing to communicate is going to be very helpful. And also it just starts with our leadership to continue to show respect for one another, for our city commissioners and our city administrator, and vice versa, and for all of you. We're going to continue to show that level of respect. We're not for each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Frasca.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, in recent years, there seems to be an elevated level of contention surrounding City Hall. Do you agree? If yes, how do you think we can best move forward in a more positive and uplifting manner? If no, how would you propose to negate the impression that there is contention?
Well, I do agree that there has been a level of
Contention.
Yeah, contention here within our city, and I have to say that I have seen the changes over the past year and a half, that situation has started to diffuse. We do have a new police chief, we have a new administrator, city administrator, we have a new deputy city clerk, we have a new public works director. So within that, going forward, I think that if we stick with honesty, integrity, and accountability, and we keep in our mind, a truth is always a truth, no matter how much you want to change the truth to help somebody understand it. If we stay with the truth, we will be honest and we will be okay. Thank you.
Mr. Lane?
Well, a couple of things that I can say that I've worked on hard throughout my life. One is a thing I heard in a seminar one time. It said, one of the most important abilities in a leader is to manage the disappointment in the people. When you choose a direction you want to go, there are people that wanted to go that way. Managing their disappointment is an important thing. It sounds like a small thing, but it's not. To get people to get over that disappointment and join you in that direction is a very important thing. Another thing I've learned is a classic, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. You got to work with everyone. That doesn't mean, I don't think I would have any enemies in particular, but the dissension that I do agree lives in the city. It's not a new thing. It's not new anywhere. Anywhere you get a big group of people together, there's going to be dissension. You just have to work with everybody, keep everybody close, learn what their legitimate questions are and what they mean and how you can work towards fixing them.
Thank you. And this is the last question, and only because I want to be honest to time, since we said this would be from 6 to 7, and we will go over just a little bit, but since we had a few issues with the timing, I hope that's all right with everyone. The final question is, and this will be responded to first by Ms. Rutledge. Common elected official saying is, my door is always open. Usual interpretation is, you can always come to my office or someone will speak with you. What are some of the more proactive ways you plan to reach out and improve civic engagement and communication with the entire community?
I think it starts with being transparent always and putting out my contact information so that folks can contact me. But also, I've seen a trend that I think Roger and Ms. Fresca here have both used, and it's to have town hall meetings. And I think those are specific to the zone, but I think continuing that communication and being able to bring your concerns and have an interactive conversation where it's not like a commission meeting and you're sitting in the audience and you're listening, but to actually have an engaging conversation where you can bring your concerns, and they may seem small to you, but they can be solved. So that's something that I would feel very strongly about doing once a month, once every other month, to make sure that we can continue the conversation and make sure that everyone is being heard.
Ms. Frasca?
Oh, yes, thank you. Well, I can't say my door is always open because I do have a dog and he will get out, and that's against the ordinance. But my phone is always on. If I don't answer the please leave a message. I will call back. If you email me, I will respond. I have had 2 town halls over the past 2 years, and those have been very helpful, very engaging. And I also have a Facebook commission page which allows me to engage with our citizens. But I love Lake Helen. I mean, I absolutely love Lake Helen, and I love the people. So as I see people out on the street, or even, popping in to get gas, we always talk, and I write things down. And as being a part of several different community groups, I get a lot of questions, and I'm able to answer those at that time. And if I don't have the answer, I get it for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lane?
I think the essence of my door is always open for me would mean that I value people's input. On this campaign trail, I've been listening to people and learning what matters and seeing the insight of the community and the very practical way that the citizenry looks at our problems. Now there's a few people who are a little fly off the handle-ish, but even they have insights sometimes. I've learned a lot. And keeping my door open, which I will of course do, just like any other politician, I will keep my door open and I will listen, but I will listen with great respect for the body politic of the citizens of this community. Y'all are very wise, and I appreciate that, and I will always respect that.
Mr. Burton.
Where I live, my door is right off the street, and everybody comes to knock on my door to ask me about something, even if it's to borrow money, is to ask me about something that they don't want to come to City Hall with. So keeping an open door is something that I've always practiced. I do believe that because of the ability to reach out to churches, I've been to every church in the city during this campaign. I found out that a lot of the churches and pastors do not live in our community. I've also found out that each one of them has a clerk, a city clerk, a church clerk. They're getting back to church like they used to. So I think church is one of the things that we need to reach out to, because they bring together people, and we just need to be able to even interact with them. Communication in City Hall needs to be better. To be able to have a bulletin board outside City Hall and you don't live on that side of town, you never know what's going on. So we need to reach out to the community so that they'll feel that they are part of this community and that we care about what they want.
Well, thank you very much. We are now going to have closing statements. The closing statement time limit is 1.5 minutes. And the first closing statement will be given by Ms. Frasca, followed by Mr. Burton. In third is Heather Rutledge, and Mr. Lane will close it out. So Ms. Frasca, now is time for your closing 1.5 minute statement.
Okay, thank you. I just want to say I sit up here humbled and honored and thrilled to have been given the past 2 years to serve as your Zone 1 Commissioner. And I hope that you entrust to me an additional 2 years to serve you, because I have a lot more that I would like to provide for you. Since I want to go back and answer one of the questions that I didn't get completed, as far as our lakes and herbicide. I didn't answer the question how I felt about herbicide. I seem to have missed that one. But my answer is I personally am against it, but as a commissioner, I found a middle ground where by exhausting all alternative methods, we can try to use all alternative methods before using the herbicide. So there are other ways to look at our lake. It's just like medicine. We don't want to take it if we don't have to. Thank you.
Mr. Burton.
I've had the opportunity to sit in on a city commission meeting, and someone came up and said that that's my mayor. I would be that person that would be the mayor, that would be able to hear the people that are coming forward and bringing forth an information that they would have. I'm running for the position of mayor. Cameron is a good guy. He's my friend. I'm running against him. So the question that was asked at our last debate was, what's the difference between Cameron and I, or your opponent? I said I was taller than him, but I give it another way. Imagine somebody in medical school, 6 years. Spent 6 years in medical school, then they went to real estate. And after 6 years in real estate, decided to come back to medical school. Now the guy that's been in the medical school 6 years and got out and was a specialty specialist for 6 years, he's got 12 years experience, he's got 12 years of education, as opposed to someone who's got 6 years of education and 6 years of experience in doing something else. I've been doing what I've been doing for the past 12 years, and I've been able to find a way to make it work. And as your mayor, I will be that guy that makes it work.
Mr. Rutledge.
I want to start out by saying thank you all for being here and to everyone that set this up. And thank you for the support that I've received so far. I want to talk a little bit about my 3 top things that I've been focusing on through my campaign, but of course this is not all encompassing. I want to protect the culture that we have in Lake Helen. It's a very unique place, that's why we're here. That's why we love it so much. And I think that we have to be very careful about safeguarding it. I want to preserve our amenities and maybe even look at ecotourism. We have some beautiful land, we have beautiful parks, we have beautiful lakes, and I'd like to see those preserved. Also, I think that I am capable of leading unbiased by listening to your concerns. No matter what the outcome is, I want to continue with grace and a common ground of working towards the common good for everybody, and I will still be involved. So thank you very much for being here, and have a great night.
Mr. Lang.
Well, I'm a 4th generation Lake Helener, and I can't take any real pride in that myself. It's just where I happen to be plopped. But this is a great place to be plopped. I love Lake Helen, I do. I chose to raise my family here. I could have raised them anywhere. And I chose to raise them here because it's just a fantastic place. I did only have 6 years experience on our commission. As I mentioned earlier, I had 27 years experience on the Master Homeowners Association and that other community, which actually approximates the size of Lake Helen pretty well. And that association did everything short of fire and police. It was a quasi-governmental board and handled all of the same things. So I believe I have tremendous experience. And in my business experience, it relates to leadership and building unity and creating a direction and a cohesive ideal for where we want to go as a group and where we want to go as a city. I don't have to create that. Y'all create that. I just have to help make it a reality and bring it to fruition. And I believe I can. I have, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, tremendous respect for the citizens of this community and the breadth of knowledge and wisdom that you have. And I will honor and respect you by leading you in that direction.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much to our candidates. Let's give them a big round of applause. I want to remind you of a couple of deadlines in case you may not know or have forgotten. First of all, if you want to vote by mail ballot, you have to ask for it by Saturday. Secondly, early voting begins Monday. So you've got Monday through Friday of next week for early voting. And that's at the Supervisor of Elections office. So if you want to vote before Election Day, you can do that. And then, of course, November the 2nd is Election Day, 7 to 7. And so please make sure you vote. This is sort of one of my personal mantras as well as one of the league's. But we have the right to vote where they don't in so many other countries, but we also have a responsibility to vote. Don't sit home because because you're shirking your responsibility if you do that. So just remember on voting day, and tell your neighbors the same thing. It is a right, it is a responsibility, and it is not a badge of honor to say, well, I don't vote. It's a badge of honor because you went and did it and did what you should do as a citizen of the United States of America. One other thing, we have taped this tonight. It will be up on our website, and it will also go up, there will be a link on the Lake Helen website. So it'll take us a couple of days to do that. We convert it to YouTube, and then it goes on the website. So please tell your friends and neighbors if they want to see or hear what happened tonight, but to please go. Our website is LWVVC.org. So it's League of Women Voters, Volusia County.org. And having said all that, I just thank all of you who are. It'll be on the village, on Lake Helen Villa website.
Yeah, that's Lake Helen Villa, lakehelenvilla.com.
Okay? Or come to LWVVC.org. So I just want to thank everyone again tonight for coming, and please talk to the candidates. If your question did not get asked tonight, we apologize. We tried to get to all of the questions we could. Some of them were very similar, so we didn't want to keep asking the same question over and over. Thank you. Travel safely on your way home.